We are very proud to welcome Katarina Perez. Katarina is a Texas-based artist. She was born and raised in Houston and now lives in Dallas, where she's pursuing her bachelor's degree in lighting, compositing, and VR at the University of Texas at Dallas. She joined TDU in 2018, and in 2019, she began working at Real Effects in Dallas as a junior lighting TD. So now we're going to bring on Katarina Perez. Katarina.
Hi. Hello, Mike.
Welcome to. Hi. How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Hi. Welcome. I'm doing great. Okay. So first thing. Okay. So you grew up in Houston. Were you an artistic kid growing up?
I would say yes. Ever since I was growing up in Houston, I remember since a young age, I loved art, and I was always drawn to art, drawing from painting animals to people to environments. But it was very hard growing up in Houston as an artist because I didn't have an outlet or that resource to draw or to have that teacher to help me and mentor me. So during that time, I was just drawing manga and drawing just anything and anything. And it wasn't until my mom saw that I could draw just a little bit, and she bought me a little art case for me. And ever since then, I was always just sketching away. So yeah.
That's amazing. So how did you get into animated films then?
It wasn't until I think when I was very little. I remember watching Bambi on a VHS tape, and I saw that the behind the scenes at the very ending of the credits, they had a behind the scenes on how they made Bambi. And I was just so blown away. Like they were showing how they used cell sheets to paint Bambi. And I just remember, wow, that's so cool. Like I didn't know that was animation. And I remember Walt Disney coming into frame, and he was like, yeah, animators at Disney, you draw animals and they animate. But when you're a kid, you don't know what that is. And no one in my family knew what animation was. So I remember that was the first little taste that I got of animation, but it wasn't until high school where I discovered 3D animation, and that's where my whole journey into this world changed forever. So yeah, that was my first tidbit.
Was it like a high school class, or
yeah, it was
like how did you discover it in high school?
There was a professor. It was actually an elective. So I just decided, I wasn't able to take it, but I was like, oh, I really want to do animation, but I don't know how to start. Where do I begin? What do I do? And I remember going up to my teacher, and he said, oh, we have a 3D class, and during lunch hours, I would go in and he would teach me the principles of animation. And then I got to work in Maya, I think it was 2015 back then. And oh man, it was super awesome. Again, it was super daunting. Maya was just the worst interface to work in, and I didn't know how to start. So back then in high school, that was my first 3D animation class. But then the following semester, he had moved away, and then I was just lost again, and I didn't know where or how to start. So yeah, that was my first other take on 3D in high school. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, so then did you start? So you started studying animation then in college?
Yeah, officially it didn't begin, and the deciding factor wasn't until my first year in community college. My family has never, we don't have, nobody knew animation was possible or it existed. And so everybody was kind of scared of me going into animation. And hello?
Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
I'm back. Okay. I was saying I had internet issues, so things are going to kind of pop in and out, and I apologize for that. It's the beauty of the live.
Okay.
All right, I think I'm back now. All right,
cool.
It always takes a second. Okay, so I apologize. So you're in college. How did you transition into lighting, compositing, and VR? Like, how'd you get into that?
Oh, man, I think the deciding factor for that was after I had taken my first modeling and shading class. My first official lighting course was here at the University of Texas at Dallas, and we had to light an orange. And I just remember watching my professor light it, and I thought, wow, that is so amazing. Like just being able to light an orange. I'm like, wow, it's just the coolest thing. And afterwards, I just had a hard time lighting that orange. And I remember I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to get better at lighting. And just how he was just zooming through the entire program and using Nuke to also composite this orange. And I just remember, wow, I'm just having so much fun lighting a simple, simple, tiny orange. And you could bring life into it and make it look really cool with different colors. And it was almost like painting. And I think at that deciding moment, just based off of that orange, I thought, wow, lighting is definitely the direction that I want to go into. So that was a deciding factor for me, that you can make this orange look like anything with any color. And that's where the first taste of lighting began. So
that's amazing. Yeah, no, I think for anyone who does lighting for the first time, it either like connects with you immediately and you're like, this is amazing and it's beautiful. Or I know a lot of people who hate it from the moment they start doing it. And they're like, I just want to animate. I just want to do other stuff. I don't want to do this at all. So that's amazing. Connect with it so quickly. Okay. So this past year, you got a job as a junior lighting artist at Real Effects. Can you talk us through that process? Like, what was it like leading up to getting that job? Because I know that a lot of our students are interested in getting their first job at a studio like that. So can you just talk us through how you applied and all that, and the interview process and all that?
Yeah, so I think for any junior artist or anybody that's in school or anybody that either hasn't done school before, I think taking your first leap or faith into just applying anywhere. I think with Real Effects, it was a little different because they are in Dallas and it was a little bit more local. So I was able to go to the campus and interview and, of course, drive there. But during the whole process before then, I was in a bit of an artist rut, and I didn't know what the future was going to look like for senior year. I was just feeling very discouraged about my work, and it wasn't until like I found TDU online through the book actually, and doing a little bit of the courses and a little bit of the lessons, it just compiled on to each other, and then I was able to apply online, and I got a call back, and they interviewed me through this whole process on the phone, and it was nice. It was comfortable. Of course, I was super nervous and super excited at the same time. I was just a bundle of nerves, but the type of questions that they asked me were one about my work and my process through my student reel, and just being able to explain like my process and how I approach certain things. And then afterwards, I asked a little bit about the kind of work that they do and what would I be doing. And then sooner, like a day later, I was offered the position, but I was only contracted out. So I was able to help on certain shots, and I got a chance to light a couple. But I know as like a junior lighting artist, it's very nerve-wracking because you go into school, or maybe you're not going to school, but you want to, just learning every little bit of anything that you can online and asking for feedback, asking for help. And that's what I was doing up until that moment that I got offered a job at Real Effects, that, I was going to my professors and then being able to reach out online to you and the community. I just thought that was awesome. And that helped me gain confidence as an artist to feel like I can do this. And the moment that I sat down at my desk, I felt like, wow, this is amazing. Like I'm lighting, or I'm anything that I could, apply my skills to, or just help out on the project. I just felt super, super grateful for that moment. But I did catch myself going back to TDU lessons and saying like, okay, this compositing thing, like how do I do it, or how would I approach this? So I did refer back to TDU a lot and refer back to the book a lot. But while applying the same skills that I've learned at UTD, and oh man, it's such a rewarding experience. It's just fun, like having fun at work and enjoying like other artists that enjoy what you do is just an awesome experience. And, for anybody, I think like if you do get a job at a studio, or if you're currently at a studio, I think just being able to learn anything, even if it's something so tiny, so small, like just find a way to enjoy. Like if you have to light an orange, you make it the best, lit orange according to notes, and you address like the certain notes or the look that you're trying to go for, and just having fun with it and having fun with your coworkers, and so at Real Effects it was very enjoyable, and being able to be in a comfortable environment, like where I'm able to ask questions and just learn from. I felt very very thankful to have mentors that are my coworkers at the same time, just help me even through the smallest and most simplest fix or something that I haven't seen before. So it's a leap of faith, a good challenge.
That's amazing. Your story, this is why I had you on. Your stories are like, you're so inspirational and you're so good. Like I'm pumped up over here. Like I'm so excited. So what type of projects what project did you work on? What did you get a chance to light?
Okay, so at the beginning, I was given tasks to help fix lighting and fix compositing fixes, and just to help the show go through. But I was working on Ugly Dolls, which just released this past March.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It was awesome, even though I was contracted out to Real Effects. So I was only there for a couple of weeks until delivery. And oh man, during that whole time, it didn't feel like crunch. It was kind of weird. Even though I was there for a couple of weeks, it didn't feel like crunch. But at the same time, there were days where you felt it. But just to help with your coworkers and my mentors, I consider them as mentors, because I learned so much through the little weeks that I was there. And oh man, it was awesome being able to work on that film. The
type of work that you did, I did that early in my career too, which is paint fixes, helping tech do technical breakdowns and stuff. It's the best, because especially when I was learning compositing techniques, it's like, because you're able to open Nuke or whatever software and kind of dig through, and the nice thing about those node-based softwares is you can like step by step see what someone's logic is, and you're like, oh, that's so cool, and you're able to like parse out little things into your own work. And that's honestly, so for anyone out there, if you get a job and you're just doing like cleanup, for like best way to learn, because you get to see how people work, you get to see what people do to put stuff together, and it's such a cool experience. It's the second best way to learn. TDU is the best way. I should say that.
I agree.
No, that's so cool. So like now, so you were there for a couple of weeks. You had these great mentor experiences with the people that were there. If you could go back like to Katarina before you started the job, like what's the one like big experience thing, or like what's something you learned during your time at Real Effects?
Oof. I feel like there's Katarina before school and during school. I would say before Real Effects, I'd say trust your journey, and through your failures, grab the opportunities to grow and learn from them. Even if they aren't failures, I wouldn't consider failures, quotation marks, right? Failures. I would say use them as opportunities to grow and to learn and discover where you need to learn a little bit more, and to just trust your journey and to taking that leap of faith into something that's a little bit bigger than you think you can do, and you are capable of any situation and any of anything. I know that's super generic, but I feel like before Real Effects, there are a couple of fears, like as a student, am I going to get a job? Is this going to work? And I think through those moments of doubts, you redirect that energy and you say, no, I trust my abilities and I trust my journey as an artist, and I'm going to do anything that helps me, grow as an artist. And that's working with others, contacting other people through TDU, and just saying, hey, it would be awesome if I could light some of your stuff. And the little tiny projects do add up to bigger experiences. And during that time, I'm telling everybody, before I was in a little bit of an artist rut, and I was really questioning myself, and then I had to just redirect that energy, and I was like, look, God, I trust my abilities and I trust my journey, and that's when I started continuing to work at my skills. And through TDU, it helped me through that. It helped me relearn just a little bit. And I think going back to Katarina before Real Effects is always be willing to learn at any given time, even if you are going back to the basics, if you're relearning if you're learning how to redirect your eye in a more artistic way, be willing to do that. at any given moment, use every opportunity to learn and to grow from, even through your failures. Use those opportunities to grow and trust in your abilities. So anyone out there that's
great.
Yeah.
That's, and you said something amazing in there, which was really nice, which is because we all go through ruts, we all go through down spells, we all are questioning our abilities, and it's part of anybody who's in any creative field. But you did something that I think is very important, which is you connected with the community a little bit more when that happened. You reached out, and it's within that you can get support, because from my experiences, and you can correct me if yours are different, but everybody in our industry as a whole are supportive, and they're really passionate about this stuff. And if you see somebody who has an animation, you reach out to them, like they'll oftentimes let you light it, or they'll work with you on something, or and I know, and that's one of the things that we're most proud of at TDU, is that we have our small community of lighting students is so supportive and so good to each other, and they're good to us because I even have questions. Like I'll even come to the community with questions like, "Hey guys, I'm in Arnold and I don't quite know how to do this thing." It's always an answer. So I think that's it. What you said was, I didn't want it to just zip past without people hearing it, which is, when you're struggling artistically, when you're questioning yourself, that's the time to lean into the community and not pull out, because it's really easy to kind of isolate yourself and just focus on your own work during those times. So, okay, so I want to talk to you a little bit about your student project that you're working on, The Butcher. So you showed it in the TDU forum. It's great, like your whole setup and how you approached it. It was like such a warm, amazing feeling, because you approached it the way that we do our actual films, where you kind of have breakdowns and style sheets and color keys and stuff. And I thought that was so great. Can you tell us about that project a little bit? How did you get involved? What's your role? And all that good stuff.
All right. So The Butcher is about a father who is a butcher, who works at a butcher shop, who enjoys making breakfast for his daughter every morning. He finds the joy in that. And during this whole semester, meanwhile working at Real Effects, we all were gravitated to this idea as a senior capstone project. It was more of a it was a senior capstone project of one of my friends, and we were both working at Real Effects at the time, and we were trying to work along with Butcher and Real Effects. And during that whole time, we were just a group of friends that got together and thought, you know what, we can actually create a character and an environment through this. And so through sketches, through animatics, and through just getting ideas from everybody, story iterations, we all fell in love with the story, and we're like, let's make something happen for the senior project. So it wasn't my senior project, but it was one of my friends. And during that whole time, I was like, oh, well, I would really like to do the lighting. And so during that whole time, I was just doing lighting, look dev for lighting, and just trying to get the mood and feel for the director's vision, because it was his capstone and his project. And I thought, okay, I want to bring a little bit of life to this character. And hello.
So on that, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had on the Butcher project?
I think it was more one of the biggest challenge that we had at UTD was our render farm. So since we had a lot of shots and there were a lot of artists working on this film, there was about 15 artists working on this film. One thing that we discovered was, okay, we have all these shots and we have all these assets and we have all these materials. How are we going to organize this, and how are we going to pump out iteration after iteration? So our render farm wasn't able to read subfolders. And so we figured out a way to get this working through our system. And, we were a little spoiled at Real Effects because we would send something off and we were just amazed. We're like, wow, we're getting renders in 5 minutes? No way. And so something at UTD, we were like, wow, let's try to recreate that same scenario and see if we can fix this issue. And so we ended up fixing it. And then that was the biggest challenge of all. But so being able to get back renders was such an awesome way to get different iterations, so that way we can put up for review and change the mood, the feeling of it. But I think the other biggest challenge artistically was being able to make someone feel something. And I feel like before TDU, that's something that I struggled with, because I was very used to lighting more realistic objects or realistic environments. And before TDU, I was like, man, I'm not feeling good about my mood lighting. I'm not feeling good about this particular character that I lit. And so with Butcher, having the render farm working was a better way to get different iterations for myself and then for the directors, so that way I could see, all right, this is the direction that we're generally going in. How do you feel about this? And oh man, I went through so many different color changes, different just placements of light, and trying to grab like, okay, there's this environment. How am I going to light this? How am I going to make someone feel something? And I think that was the biggest challenge, because there would be moments where I would get notes back from the director and then my peers and then my professors. And I'm like, okay, I want somebody to feel something. And that was the biggest challenge for me. And trying to keep consistency throughout all shots was pretty challenging, because I was the sole lighter on the project. So being able to feel like, okay, I have all these shots. I need to make sure that everything matches and it's able to have a good transition of color and mood. And I've never done anything like that ever, like this big, compared to real effects, but at a much more smaller scale. I've never done, well, I wasn't in studio here, but it was a little bit more personal to me. And I was like, oh man, I love this project. I want somebody to feel something when they watch this. And I think that was the biggest challenge, and so many iterations back and forth. But no matter how many reviews you go through, never feel discouraged. Always be willing to, change this or change that, and just have fun with it. I think that was the biggest thing. Just having fun with it really captivated the project a little bit more. So, yeah.
That's great. No, that's and I mean, basically what you're describing is any lighter in any studio ever, which is you want to get to a point where you eliminate the technical difficulties, and that way you can streamline a workflow, and then where you can just focus on the art.
Yes.
You had to learn to balance the different notes from the director, your professor, me, every other artist on the project, and getting to that final look. Like and then the difficulty of matching from shot to shot. That's why we focus so much on it in the lighting on animated film class, because it's not something that's taught. And it's really, you would think it's like, oh, I just take the rig and I just move it into this shot and easy peasy, but it's not. It's like the shot, you think it's going to translate well, and it just doesn't.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good training for your next part of your career, which is my next question before we get into the rapid fire.
Yes.
So you're finishing, when are you done with school?
This upcoming fall of 2019.
That's so exciting.
It's so soon.
It's so soon. Yeah. I hated this question when I was about to graduate, but I'm going to ask it. But like, are you planning on staying in the Dallas area? Like what's on the horizon for you?
Oh man. So, I would like to, I think after graduation, it's honestly whichever studio, wherever you go, I think always enjoy the passion, enjoy the journey of where you're going, because I feel like if you enjoy what you do, it doesn't matter what studio you're at, as long as you can find other people that you can learn from and learn from that experience at any studio. I think it's going to always pile up onto bigger projects and other side projects, and just honing in on your skills and growing as an artist, I think is important. So beyond UTD and beyond, graduation, I would like to work on more bigger projects. But for now, I'm working on another short film called Cat and Moth. And that is a really challenging project, because we're working with a worldwide of artists powered through Rotella. So it's the first for me. It's a little new, and we're all working via online. So just being able to stay organized in that sense and learning from other people on any project is important. So I think beyond graduation and beyond UTD, I would like to travel outside of Dallas and outside of Texas. But if I stay in Texas, that's totally fine. That's cool. But but
I wish I could have your approach about everything. You're so zen about everything. It's amazing.
I'm a little nervous. I'm a little nervous, and like with anything, it's just redirecting that energy and redirecting that sort of doubtful, like what is going to happen, into I'm doing something now. I'm going to finish it, and then we'll see what happens. And just putting your best foot forward, with anybody, putting your best foot forward and asking for advice, before and after.
Yeah, it's really hard too when you finish school, because like that doesn't always align with when companies are hiring.
Mm-hmm.
So you can hit because there are like sometimes occasionally you'll get like just a dead space in the industry where there's just not that many companies looking for artists, or there's more artists looking than opportunities. And so it can be, and it's okay to be nervous. It's a totally normal part of this process. This is one of the, like, this transition from school into the end, like your first full-time job or your first longer contract job is really difficult. So it's okay to be nervous, but you seem very healthy in your approach to it. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So some rapid fire questions. First off, what was your favorite film as a child?
Hercules. I loved Hercules.
Really? Oh, cool. Yeah. I forgot about Hercules. That was a good one.
The songs were actually very catchy. So as a kid, I always found myself just singing along to them. So yeah, Hercules was my favorite.
That's cool. So you discovered 3D and animation in high school. You were studying in college. Is there any? Were you tempted to go into any other industry, or if you could do any other job outside of animation and VFX, what would you do?
I think a wildlife biologist or park ranger.
Oh, cool.
I always found myself traveling during my breaks and just camping and just loving to be around animals and nature. And so I thought, if this doesn't work out, I could just go and go camping for a little bit and just study the animals.
So you've had the opportunity to work at Real Effects. You've worked on The Butcher. Is there any? Is there any like one shot or one sequence or one thing that you've worked on so far that's really stood out to you as being something that you're proud of, or something that you learned a lot from? Is there anything that stands out to you above the rest?
Oh man. So on Butcher, there was one shot where there's a transition of lighting from, you have cool blues to the orange tones to it. And so it had to reveal the brighter, more sunnier feel of the sun. And so I think during that time, I was just banging my head against the wall because I'm like, wow, I've never done this. I've never been challenged in this sort of way. And I think that shot just iteration after iteration. I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? I don't want to do this in render. I want to do this in composite. So how am I going to do this? And being able to challenge myself and, all right, create one pass, create another, and trying to compile all of that together. I was a little nervous, but afterwards I was like, oh wow, it actually fits the beat of the song, and it makes you feel it's cute to like when something changes and his reaction. I felt very proud of that one particular shot because I'm like, wow, I've never done this before, but it was awesome being able to do it and figure it out. And I think that was like my proudest moment of like, oh my gosh, I'm tearing up because it's making me feel like sad and happy at the same time. So yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay. Okay. If you could have worked on any film or project throughout history, what would it be and why?
The Little Prince. So
oh yeah.
The reason why I say The Little Prince is because I think the movie did such a wonderful job, the adaptation of the book. So if you ever get the chance, read the book. It's it's in French and in English. And it was just awesome being able to see how the story was adapted into this film, but really it rooted itself through the real main message. And I feel like some movies that try to recreate like book adaptations, I feel like they kind of lose that sort of root to the book. But The Little Prince, I feel like it did a good mix between modern, message to the book message, and it just all blended well together. And I would have loved to have been a lighter on that project because there are some really nice shots in there where you're just blown away. And there's one shot in particular where the characters are inside a house, but the camera's panning in and you see the reveal of light and of all the trinkets in his room, and it just looks so beautiful. I'm like, wow, just it's a big little set, but it makes you feel something, and that I would have loved to have been a lighter on that project. So.
That's great. Yeah, no, that's a beautiful, beautiful film. That was the one that I saw, and I wish I would have worked on it too. I agree. Okay, last question. If you could go back in time, let's say 10 years or I guess it wasn't even 10 years for you, when you first heard about Maya and animation and this whole thing, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be and why?
Okay.
Well, I guess what would it be?
I think it would, trust your journey and trust your abilities, and turn every opportunity as a growing and learning experience. And even through struggles, always find something that you can learn from, and never be afraid to ask questions. Never feel afraid to reach out to others for help. And I think before Katarina 10 years ago, I was very shy and very, I didn't know how to ask questions. And it wasn't until like middle school or high school I started asking. And I didn't care if there were stupid questions. I was just asking away. So always be curious and have fun with it and trust your journey. That'd be my best advice to anybody.
That's great. I'm inspired to go about the rest of my day. That's amazing. Okay. Katarina Perez, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Your work is phenomenal. If you get a chance, it's your website is katarinaperez.com.
Yes.
Yes. So go check out her work. And thank you again for taking the time to join us. And we hope to hear from you again soon.
Thank you so much. If anybody has questions or needs advice or anything, I'm always here. I'm always here to just lend a helping hand. Yeah.
She's amazing.
So
No problem. All right. Bye, everybody. Until next time. Bye.